Hey y'all, you're listening to Diagnosing Sitcoms and Movies, the DSM podcast. We help make mental health more comfortable by using Black movies and shows we know and love and culture to remove stigma. So join our convo with your host, Courtney Copeland, licensed mental health counselor,
and Dr. B, licensed professional counselor.
Hey, what's poppin', everybody? This episode, we are going to be jumping into the 1992 classic animated comedy film, Bebe's Kids.
Bebe Kids.
Bebe Kids. We don't die.
They was going in. When that music came out, I was like, that's me. That's me. I love it. I'm the Bebe's kid.
I am. I feel like Bebe's Kids turned into like in a description of a specific type of child.
Oh, absolutely. Test tube baby. That's exactly what it turned into.
That is one of the quotes that I definitely wanted to talk about, because I was walking around at 2-3 years old talking about test tube baby. Didn't have any idea what it meant.
No, and then when I got made fun of in school, when someone called me a test tube baby, it was real. Like it was like almost on the level of someone talking about your mama. Don't call me no test tube baby. It's disrespectful.
It really is. But when I was saying it, I didn't know what it meant. Honestly, I just came to the realization of what it really meant
as
when
an
it
adult.
came on Netflix. Yeah.
Yes.
When it went on Netflix, I was like, wait, test tube baby. How did my parents let me say this out loud?
Yes.
Because it was funny.
Right. But then there's really test tube babies out there. I'm so sorry.
It's so disrespectful. That movie cannot come out now. It would never.
The DSM podcast is taking the stance that we support all test tube babies, and by no way or no means do we discriminate against test tube babies. But before we go any further, we want to acknowledge that you do hear a special guest, a third voice joining us this week, and we are super excited. I know. Wow, that's so appropriate because our special guest is so LA. We've known this person for quite a while now. This is a very close, very dear friend of mine and now colleague, Miss soon to be Dr. Jamie Johnson.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Jamie Johnson.
Hey, girl, hey. So can you please introduce yourself to the people and let them know exactly who you are?
Yes, I am Jamie Johnson. I am a licensed professional clinical counselor and a licensed clinical mental health counselor. So I am licensed in the state of California and in the state of North Carolina. I am a national certified counselor and I am a certified clinical mental health counselor. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
It was a lot, right? It was a mouthful.
You better put all them alphabets back there. Yeah.
All of them. It's still adding. So doctoral candidate for now.
That's right. That's right. So hopefully by the time this come on your podcast, she definitely will be Dr. Jamie Johnson.
Hey.
Turn up. So what we talking about today?
Bebe's Kids.
Let's keep it going with these quotes. So we have, of course, like you guys mentioned, test tube baby. One of mine is, where you going? It ain't time to leave yet. And Peewee had on more watches than BG.
I think mine is
I have had it. I am pissed off to the highest level of passivity.
That was a rating scale that I had not yet heard of before this movie.
right. Like what passivity? What level is that exactly, sir? Like what is that?
How do we gauge that? Exactly where is that?
Bruh, my favorite, she was like, your mama's so dumb. She thought a quarterback was a refund. Bruh, I thought that was so funny. Evan was like, that bin was out. You just now heard that? I was like, it's so funny.
or in the beginning when he first met Jamaica, when he was like, excuse me, miss, I didn't catch your name. And she said, I didn't throw it. That was hilarious.
I've said that before.
I didn't throw it. I was like, dang.
The shade. Right.
So you gotta do these randoms. Like, bro, we had a funeral. Chill out.
Exactly. So when I was watching that part, again, watching these movies as an adult and then from the lens of a counselor, I was like, hold on. First of all, this is so inappropriate for men to be trying to holler at a woman at a funeral, but let me remember that this is a Black funeral, okay? Because anything is possible at a Black funeral.
Especially if there's
Henny.
Can and will happen.
But she was fine though. She was fine. And then all the guys at the table playing cards and talking shit. That was the best scene ever.
Like so many jokes.
So many jokes. I did not pay attention to it as a kid. I was so concerned about the actual like kids involved in it more so than the adults. But again, I think with movies like this, especially like, you know, when you watch Disney or whatever Paramount, whatever type of cartoon that they come out with, I realize now that they make it so that the adults enjoy the show too, the movie too, as well as the kids. So now as an adult, I'm watching these movies again and I'm picking up on all these jokes. And I'm like, yo, this shit is hilarious this whole time. I did not know.
It's very interesting when you look at it, like your perspective as a kid and the way that your thoughts were then. And then you look at it as an adult and I'm just like, this was not a kid movie. This was not a child movie.
At all.
At all.
At all.
Not even a little bit.
And so, wait, Courtney, I feel like you're the nerd of all of us to know, like, the magic behind this creator coming up and saying, you know, I'm going to take this comedian and turn him into a actual animation. Did you find anything on that and what inspired this?
First of all, don't at me like this.
That's definitely her though. That's her feng shui.
That's her feng shui.
Mm-hmm. But yes, and y'all know I have. And to elaborate more fully, I think we touched on this a little bit in the Proud Family episode with the director of this film, Bruce Smith, and the different things that he did. And Rosie, you had to research that time. But him creating that and there just being Robin Harris being the great comedic legend that he was and is to this day, having the Bebe's kids just in his stand-up. It started as just part of like one of his bits that was in his stand-up and they developed that. But unfortunately, he had passed away 2 years before they were able to really start actively working on a film. So actually Faison Love is the person that does the voice of Robin, and they include the actual clips of Robin Harris in the beginning of the film to pay homage to him. So that's really dope. And I just think I love this movie because now I feel like I loved it then because it's hilarious, but I love it now because I think it is such a testament to Black comedy and especially like Black LA comedy because it's a very specific vein. But everybody in this film, they looked out for each other because there is like comedy legends and like John Witherspoon is one of the voices. George Wallace is one of the voices. Like there's so many hilarious, Myra J. Like there's just so many hilarious, iconic LA comics that are part of this movie. And I think it was a great way for them to pay homage and add to the legacy that is Robin Harris. So special shout out to the creators of this film and including all of the special people that they decided to put in because it did come out as a classic. Even though I don't know what people was thinking at the time and it was very harshly received by critics, but it wasn't for y'all. It was for us.
It wasn't. You're right. You're right.
It was definitely for the people, by the people, literally. Yeah.
And they wouldn't have understood it. They wouldn't have understood the beauty of the movie.
No.
Exactly. The films that quote Dolomite are for us.
It's unfortunate because it feels like it needs to be revamped and not even revamped, but needs to be like reintroduced, which is why I'm happy it's on Netflix, but it needs to be like highlighted. Like, this shit is funny. Rewatch this shit. Because it is.
That's our job. That's what we doing here today.
That's what we do.
Cheers
today.
To us.
Watch it. Cheers. Watch it. Please, in your adult life, because it's actually a lot funnier. And then also a little sadder, in my opinion, watching it again. I was like,
I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, because, you know, the Bebe's kids. I think at this point, everybody has had their experience. At this age, I've had my experience with Bebe's kids.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
On many levels. Like even, I think many times, especially growing up like a military brat, as you guys have witnessed, I'm sure at some point or another, like this was one of the Black movies that I could really dig into and understood. Like in depth, I feel like I was Khalil, like growing up. I was the one that was kind of like a little scared, a little standoffish. Like, no, I can't.
Were you bullied?
That's Leon. That's Leon.
Oh, Leon, right? Yes. Okay.
Oh, Leon. Sorry. Yes, Leon is who I'm talking about. I was kind of like the little Leon that was like, no, don't hit me. Like, no, you can't say that. You can't do that. Shut up or I'm gonna tell on you. Like, you know, I wasn't the one that was gonna ask too many questions. I was trying kind of not to be seen, you know, or noticed at that age anyway. So looking back at it, I was like, dang, like I remember being like, you know, I had some cousins that was a little more buck than me. So being around them in a space,
don't we all?
Right. I'm like, no, I don't want to be caught up in that. Like, no, I'm scared. Yeah, it might seem a little fun, but when I get back home, I know I'm going to get beat. Like, my parents are there. Like, I know what's going to happen to me. I'm going home to
whip you when I wanna.
When I wanna.
See, Robin, you making my...
Perfect timing.
Perfect. And so I think that's the difference between now and like kids growing up, because kids growing up now, like you'd be like, yo, if I was your age, I could never say that.
Right. Like we can have a feeling. Like, no, nobody care about your feelings. Go to your room.
I'll pop you in your mouth.
And we can laugh about it now because like it's over. But I think us being that generation, to me it feels like we're the generation now that wants to change that, and we encourage our kids to be inquisitive and ask questions and be like, oh, you're so smart. I just don't want to give you none because I said no. It's shifting. We're figuring out how to, you know, stop traumatizing our children.
No, but if you think about the parenting, if you think about this movie, though, I feel like Bebe's kids were the kids that everybody talked about at that time. Like, they just said what they want, did what they want. So it's like, there's a line, though. Like, yes, I want you to express yourself, but there are also limits to your expression.
And that's why I appreciate Robin's character in this film, because he wasn't just like, shut up. Like, yeah, he would crack jokes with them, but he still allowed them to beat them. Like, he would be like, hey, look, now if you get into it, one of them, pick something up and knock the hell out of him. Like, he was still, he told the line of being old school and new school, where like, you're going to have to learn these certain things, and you're not about to disrespect me crazy, but here go $10. Y'all go get yourself a pizza or something. Like, still trying to look out on both sides. So I appreciate this film. I love it. And, I definitely was an in-between. I could be a Bebe's kids when with my cousins, and then I could be a Leon when I was by myself, because I, you know, lived in both worlds. But I just thought it was hilarious how even the kids that weren't Bebe's kids, like they had the white kids even saying, we Bebe's kids. We don't, we multiply. They did.
It was contagious.
We multiply. We don't die, we multiply.
If you've ever watched some bad kids, like that is just a horrible, like terrible nightmare. Like these little 3 bad ones, and now they're just growing and spreading like wildfire.
They destroyed the whole amusement park.
They did.
Amusement park. They burned it down. It was left. If nothing left by the time they finished.
They literally tore that shit down.
And then blacked out Las Vegas.
Right. I was too through when they pulled up to Las Vegas.
Took them there. I would not have took them there. Why did they take them?
I would have, so I could be like, why do you take
kids? Why do you take kids to Las Vegas? What is there for little kids to do? Peewee is 3. Like, what is Peewee gonna do in Las Vegas?
To be like, them kids tore down. I told they can't go nowhere. That's why I took them to Las Vegas. They tore down. I took them to the theme park. They tore it down. Can't take them nowhere. That's it.
You know that's the point. I feel like when it came to Robin Harrison and his whole character, I was conflicted for many reasons.
How?
So I love the fact that he was a father figure. Wonderful, great. I just met this man in a funeral though, the day before. Why does he have much say-so in my child's face? Why is he sleeping on this man? I don't know. You know, the first night he fell asleep on this man. She didn't know, he didn't know. How do you become so comfortable with somebody after meeting them at a funeral a couple hours before?
Why are you taking your child on your first date with this man?
And somebody else's kid.
And somebody else's shit. Like
this is TV.
I was so worried about Jamaica. Jamaica made some questionable decisions.
Very questionable decisions.
All throughout. I was so confused.
All throughout, what was her other questionable decision other than to be with him?
I mean, I just feel like all throughout, even his ex-husband calling me out in the our ex-wife calling me out in the bathroom. It's like he didn't have too many red flags. We go to a funeral. He asked me to take him home, but his first question was, "You shouldn't be walking by yourself." No, I have a car. Well, then can you take me home? No, sir. No.
And I felt comfortable enough driving you home, and I didn't even want to give you my name at first, but I can put you in my car and drive with you.
And then he like, you don't know if I got warrants. You don't know if I got, why you sitting right next to me? Exactly, you don't know, but he's telling you that you don't know, and you want to slam all the brakes and be confused. No, there's no confusion. You don't know this man.
He's telling you to make better decisions with your life, man.
Exactly. Listen, but see, the sad part is that in this movie, there are women just like her, and there are men just like him, just like there are kids, just like Bebe's kids. And so there are women who have a child and who have been in a bad relationship, and there's a guy that gives them some attention, and he seem okay, you know, and then you let your guard down, and then next thing you know, you at a theme park with your kid and some other kids. And that's how the story goes.
Just because it happened, don't make it right.
I don't know. And that's why the divorce rate is as high as it is. And he's already going through a divorce.
Ooh, for real? In real
lifetime? Even all the way divorced yet.
In real lifetime?
Talking about that I wear my wedding ring on the right hand because I married the wrong woman.
Ooh. I didn't even pick up on that. I'm like, is this in real time? This happened in real time? Time.
But did either of you guys diagnose Robin with anything?
Actually, I didn't.
Me
didn't either. Only thing I can see is she just has, for me, Jamaica invited 3 other kids to go. We're not going to Fun World. She didn't give me enough money to support her kid. When I agreed to go to Fun World, it was your child and you.
So I goes to pick her up the next day. She got 3 more kids with her. What's this?
These are children.
Oh, wait, you said you have a kid.
These are Bebe's kids.
He was at the front, pulling out all his change.
The dimes,
the nickels. He was like, is that how much it is yet?
Jamaica, give me that 20.
She said they gave me $20. Okay, and I had to think back. I was like, $20 is $2 today. Back then, $20 might have been.
To get into the park, it was $35 a child. And you invited 3 more kids. I'm sorry. We're not going to Fun World. We're going to
Chuck E. Cheese.
To Chuck E. Cheese. We're going to go to a park. We're going to bring our food. We're going to make some sandwiches. And y'all can run around and do whatever y'all want. But we are not going to Fun World. I'm sorry. She's talking about, I'm excited. Let's go.
The one pet peeve I have about watching other people's kids is don't bring me no child with no stinky diaper. Change your baby. Bring your baby with a clean diaper. I'm prepared to change their diaper when they're with me. And so that's another thing. I was like, how did Peewee's diaper smell the entire time they were with him?
Not one person they changed. Not one time did I see his diaper changed.
And I'm just like, oh my God, diaper rash galore. Like, what in the hell?
Peewee didn't have no clothes on.
He didn't. He really didn't. And so I'm just like, so you just couldn't even just like slip that off and put another one on real quick? Can we potty train him? He 3 years old, y'all said?
He was about 3. In his little rap, didn't he say he was about to be 3?
He did. So
still sipping Similac. First of all, that's another problem. There was just just gross levels of neglect when it came to Peewee that I'm a little bit concerned about, and I would have been concerned about somebody coming to take the kids away from Bebe. That would have been my number one. Like, girl, if you don't get it together, they're gonna take these kids from you.
Hello.
Right. Honestly,
no food in the refrigerator.
Nothing.
They got something in there to eat. What was there? 1 can of something in the refrigerator,
and that was probably a box of baking soda. And that's what the social workers check for. Your babies ain't clean, the Peewee stinking, and ain't no food in the house.
So for when you mentioned like, okay, I did not diagnose the parents. I mean the parents for no parents. I did not diagnose the adults, but I gave Z codes and V codes for the kids.
Girl, what's a Z code? Can you please inform me on what?
The Z code. There's Z codes, girl. Yeah, now in the DSM. Why she acting brand new?
They're like identifiers. They're like specifiers to situations.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So you have to elaborate. Everybody don't know what a ZV.
Oh, okay.
I learned. I get feedback. You know what I mean? People talk. We gotta explain the stuff.
So Z codes and V codes are basically like codes that are used that are like identifiers for specific problems. So like there's problems related to housing, problems related to relationships. So a lot of the grief and loss. And so sometimes the thing about it is that even with being in mental health, like especially for billing insurance, they want to see, a diagnosis. Well, in some cases, you may not be able to give a diagnosis, especially within that first initial interaction. So you're able to use your Z and V codes to kind of describe and give some type of diagnostics to the situation. So for this case, it would be more of like the home and the relationship, but not so much like, because then in my mind, as soon as I was watching the movie, I'm not going to lie, as I sat down and watched it, I'm playing it, I'm like, oh, okay, oppositional defiant disorder. That's where I went immediately. And I felt bad for that. I did, because I was like, I'm just prejudging this situation. And I had to step back.
I think that's our training too.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, let me step back and watch the movie. And then that's when I really had that other side of me that was like, oh, this is sad, because it wasn't that they were neglected intentionally. It's just that Bebe was trying to provide for her kids the best way that she knew how. Mm-hmm. And so she put them in the care of other people. And even though she put them in the care of other people, there was still levels of neglect. There was still extreme poverty. There was still so many other Z codes and B codes before I could even get to oppositional defiant disorder. So,
I mean, if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
absolutely,
you have to. I feel like before we can even go into putting a diagnosis there, I think we need to make sure some of those needs are being met, because it's not clear exactly what's happening. If I don't have food on my stomach, I can present it a lot of different ways. If you're in pain, right. It's difficult to pay attention to even what's being said to you. Are you even interpreting what I'm saying in this moment? So I agree with you. If they're not getting those basic needs met, it's kind of difficult to sit in front of somebody and dictate everything that's happening.
Absolutely. And so it's like, okay, so are you acting out? And children, the thing is I think of kids, they can tell you what they need and what they want to a certain degree. And so how you were saying, Jamie, if I said something, I had to prepare myself to be popped in the mouth if it was off the wall. So if a kid said something well, I'm hungry, and that person that they're in the care of hits them because they're telling them they're hungry, then that kid isn't going to tell you or tell someone else that they're hungry anymore. They're going to act out instead. So it's how are these kids acting out their needs, to some degree? Because I can't remember the young boy's name. Khalil. Wasn't he klepto? Didn't he steal something from no, they was just breaking shit in the fucking gift shop. They didn't steal anything.
They kind of profiled him before he even got into the park.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah. So, we got to talk about that, because that bothered me too. Mm-hmm. And that kind of made me feel some type of way, especially because Black Lives Matter and what's happening right now. With so many Black men Black men and women being profiled, for little things, the Karen movement, right? And so for him just to be pulled, we're watching you, and how they was watching him and what they were doing to him and antagonizing him. I'm like, this is what they do to Black kids. This is why Black kids are 10 times likely to be suspended and expelled from schools.
But also, they're running with the police. I don't feel like that was the first time they had been watched like that. You guys remember when they pulled up to the amusement park and they came to an abrupt stop, and the police officer came up, and he was like,
where did he come from? Where did he come from?
I have no idea where he came from. But the kids, if y'all go back to that scene, Leon was up against a seat like this. And the other kids were singing the time. whatever. Yeah. So like, it wasn't their first time. It's like that understanding that they can't trust the police from the beginning, where Leon is just like, I know I got to sit back and shut up. So it was really interesting to see the difference between the way Leon responded to the police, even the way that Robin Harris, he was like, oh, you're going to treat me like a king today?
And he automatically assumed the position too. When he answered the first question and he could tell that this was about to be a whole interaction, he automatically assumed the position, hands up, put him on the car, like everything. And it commented on, to me, it's like, it's the same understanding of the interaction with the police that we have. It's just 3 different representations of it. Like if you're an adult and you have to, I already know the procedure, I know how this is going to go, let's just get this over with. Leon, who still has that fear a little bit and is straightening up so that, you know, he doesn't have to interact at all. And then the kids who've had this interaction and are just like, get the hell out my face.
And then Jamaica was just like, don't even try it. Oh, because he was like, ooh, she looked kind of good, don't she? He was like, I am not playing with it.
Get your corny ass the fuck on.
Exactly. Jamaica was like, absolutely not.
Exactly. And so I didn't want to, because I felt like Jamaica was kind of a voice of reason when people were trying to judge Bebe and the different things that she was doing. And Robin made several comments about she probably getting her boots smoked, like you could be doing, but we here doing it. But to me, it sounded like Bebe was probably at work. Like she's trying to make ends meet. Bebe got a lot going on. She got 3 kids. She might be out here trying to make some money, make things shake. And so I did, which led me to further question, like, you're trying to make ends meet. You have 3 kids. You are relying on different people to help you out and assist and taking care of them. Like Dr. Rosie said, in the best way that you know how. And wondering, with Peewee being as young as he is, him kind of having the least amount of affect and like responsivity to everything that was going on around. Wondering if maybe Bebe had at some point suffered from postpartum depression or something, to where she wasn't able to form those type of emotional attachments with the kids. And so that piece of it was lacking, but she still knew she still had to do certain things to take care of them. So she was just doing what she could and didn't have that emotional connection with them in that way. But
I feel like I'm gonna take it a step further, because I do believe that's true. But also I feel like a lot of us, when we grow up, we can't give what we don't have. So regardless of, even if it wasn't postpartum or whatever, we can only give what we have. And if she's used to living like that, that's normal. Like, this is just what it is. I got to have somebody else watch my kids right now. I got to make ends meet. That's just what it is. But I feel like the other piece of it is just generational trauma, just whatever. I think those issues started long before those kids were probably born. Probably when she was a child, some things that she didn't learn, which is also part of what my dissertation is on.
Okay, plug.
Just
shameless plug,
right?
I feel like issues start, you know, as we're growing up and as we develop and as we see the world, as we understand the world. And when we have kids, unless there's an intervention to what we know, we're going to just continue to repeat the same pattern over and over again. So even if it wasn't postpartum and there was no intervention, it could be just trauma. Like, we just never knew any different. And even if she didn't experience the trauma herself, she's just going on learned behavior from maybe her parent. So they say, like, you can't, if you didn't experience a traumatic event, then you don't have PTSD. Yes, I agree with that. But there's still learned behaviors. You might not have experienced the event, but that doesn't mean you don't act like you did.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even for some of the diagnostic routes that I went with some of the kids there, the caregiver characteristics that are often shown to be risk factors include things like depression, poverty, a history of abuse or neglect in the parent's own childhood, and lack of social support. And so if Jamaica is really the only person that she can really count on to watch her kids, she doesn't have support. Having 1 kid by yourself is a task in itself. Having 3 without a stable like network or village around you, can't imagine. My kids would be
But
bad.
also too, like we have to also ask the question, the hard question is, it was hard the first time. It was hard the second time. It's hard the third time too, you know? Like what intervention was going to be put in play for you to stop? And
having kids taken away.
Yeah.
That's the intervention. Usually, you get what I'm saying? Like, and then for some reason,
I don't know. That don't always.
No, because then they'll just be like, I can make another one.
They'll just have more.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the kids have to deal with you kept them and not us.
Yeah.
And, it's just this horrible vicious cycle.
Right.
And then one thing that Jamaica said that stuck out to me too is everybody is blaming Bebe, but she didn't make them by herself.
Yes, that's true.
And so I'm wondering if this always even was the struggle. If it was because because she said, "Don't run, Robin." That's why they shot their daddy. So I'm wondering if they dad like this wasn't a struggle before.
Oh no, did they kill their daddy? They killed their dad.
They shot dad, and so now this is where they are because dad left.
But also, I'm gonna take it a step further too. True enough, there's some males in this picture, but this is also the male that you picked. These are the people that you chose to have kids with.
They were in a rough neighborhood.
This could have been transition. This could have been they weren't struggling when dad was there. Dad left and everything kind of, Bebe had to take everything on by herself. This is what she could afford. This is what she, for the meantime, in between time and that transition, the kids got mad because their quality of life changed. And so they shot them. And this is where they, they be starting from here. We just seeing a snapshot of what's going on.
But no, really, like, I think when you initially watch this, we assume Bebe is horrible just because of the way her kids are. But could that be true? I mean, like, really think about it. Does Bebe have to be horrible for her 3 kids to act that way? Or is she just not present?
Well, I always had this theory that kids act out with their mothers and they tend to act a little decent when they're with other people. That's my theory. I think that kids, when they're around their mothers, they be acting like they don't know what to do, especially when they're in front of other people. But when they're by themselves, they act like decent people. So in my mind, I'm like, no, Bebe hasn't had time to do the nurturing and the teaching of what it means to be a decent citizen.
I seen this comment on Facebook earlier that was talking about the Rona babies, like the babies that are all being born during COVID, and how they're so advanced now and they're doing things so early. And part of the reason they feel like kids are doing stuff so early and they're so advanced is because they've actually had the physical touch and the contact with their mothers and their parents because they've actually been at home. So I wonder, because of her absence, this is why they develop more street knowledge, than more maybe an emotional intelligence and
that is the avenue that I concur with. That's where I think Bebe was really just trying to make ends meet and make things shake however she could. But that absence led them to have to pick it up and get it how they could. And unfortunately, they got it from the street. And this is what it is now.
And how does that translate? That's the question. Like, because Bebe's kids are all over. Like, to this day, right now, there's Bebe's kids out there. Mm-hmm. So how does that translate? Like, how do you become a person in society with those skills and that way of thinking? Like, where's the intervention come and how do you develop?
I think that's the thing about oppositional defiant disorder. It's like this, we can give them that diagnosis, but there's a likelihood that children with those disorders can actually live and have a thriving life despite having hardships in their childhood. Now, the intervention comes in, later in like their teenage, adolescence to early adulthood, where they start to learn and implement certain skills and characteristics. I say that because, like, for me, growing up in foster care, we were panhandling on the street. We were literally Bebe's kids. And this one foster home, she had like 7 of us in a home. And we would go and we would panhandle. It was almost like we were like Bebe's kids in the sense that there was nothing in the refrigerator, And so we was eating chips and the hugs, juice, and we would share it around with each other, quarter water, and share that around with each other. And that was our survival. But at the same time, I feel like some of those survival skills taught me and prepared me to be the person I am today. So while these kids may be in this impoverished, environment, it also is a way for them to become, the people that they want to become because they saw what they didn't want to be. They don't want to be like their mom. They don't want to be like whomever was watching them and taking care of them. They want it better for themselves. So I think sometimes coming up in adverse environments actually makes a person become better.
I agree with that, but also I feel like there still has to be an intervention. Like there still has to be something that happens to make you want to be different or want to see something different, because a lot of times we usually pick what we're used to. And even if we do have another avenue or we know something different, we automatically go to what's natural and what's normal to us. So there still has to be that extra leap of, like, I know, Lord knows for me, chaos was a norm for me. And I was, regardless of where my mindset knew I should be, somewhere along the line, I wasn't observing that this is a normal tendency that I'm used to, but it's not the best one. It's not the best choice for my path and where I need to go. So I had to learn to really, really be specific and be aware of, this is your norm, but this norm was not healthy or safe for you. This path, it might not feel right. It might not feel normal. It might feel a little awkward, but you need to be going this direction because that is the healthy way for you. So I still think there has to be, I do agree, it gives you skills that are going to promote you further and even maybe put you in better positions than other people. But I still think you need that extra to like get past that place.
That's where the village comes in. And I think thankfully for the type of person that I am, I was able to seek that type of village. It wasn't always presented to me. I went out and I was like, yo, who's gonna be my mama? Who's gonna be my daddy? Who? You? Okay.
That's so real.
And so that's how I was able to get myself in a better, when you say intervention, I'm thinking, who were the people that intervened for me? And it was the teachers. It was the, the people like in my academic realm that made me become this academic person.
Preach.
Right?
That was a safety zone.
It was my safety net. It was my safety place. And so when you were saying that, when you said that people are going to go to what is normal, what's familiar to them, out of the three, I think Khalil will be the one that's going to be the street one. Mm-hmm. And then I can't remember the little girl's name.
LaShawn, because of Leon, her relationship with Leon, I feel like LaShawn is probably going to realize that there is better for her based off of that friendship, even relationship, if you will. We'll see. With him and God, realizing but realizing, there's better for me. I deserve better. I can have better. And then with Peewee, he might go after Khalil and probably be up under him or something. But I feel like out of the three of them, LaShawn will probably learn that she can do better and want better. And it seems like she's the oldest out of the three. Khalil is.
I think Khalil's the oldest.
Oh, for me, it felt like she was the oldest. Okay.
That's because she was beating everybody up.
That's why.
But from going with both of y'all really are saying and feeling like that's kind of where I feel away is because everybody say, oh, that intervention is going to come later. That is we can work with the children as they become teens. They can find their own village. But to me, that's the issue, is that there isn't something that's happening earlier, because at that age, these behaviors aren't the result of these children. There's nothing wrong with these children. It's the things that are wrong surrounding them. And so that whatever happens, it needs to happen either with Bebe, or we need to find a more stable, a more consistent environment for the kids. And so if that's them going to go stay with a grandma or an auntie or somebody that can help while Bebe get things together, whatever that is, then that can be the intervention. And that is actually where I would target any type of treatment that I would be offering in this situation, is because it really needs to start with who's going to be their consistent caregiver, whether that's we're working specifically with Bebe and we're building skills with Bebe and we're trying to see, okay, well, with your work schedule, how can you get these things in? Can we find you a consistent daycare where they're going to be seeing the same people regularly and have consistent schedules and consistent expectations so they know how to go, what to do, and it's not something that's always changing for them. And so even with the diagnosis that I gave them, I kind of gave twofold. I gave what I feel like our current system would give them, and then I gave them the more taking things into consideration. Is it just a V code? Is this actually a mood disorder? Is this RAD, where they have the reactive attachment disorder because they haven't been getting that affection and the things that they have been needing from that time? And whatever, but for each treatment that I would want to do and work with, it will all be parent-based, whether it's didactic therapy, where you're working with the parent and the child, and we're building all skills together so that you know how to react and interact with your child, or it's just me and that parent working together, because at this age, they're so young that this isn't a them problem. Like they're not the issue. And I think that's what happens a lot of times with impulsivity and disruptive diagnosis, is that people focus on the negative behaviors of the child, and there's something wrong with the child instead of targeting everything else around the situation that could actually be changed much more easily and actually see progression. And people don't always feel patient enough, because that child then has to unlearn those behaviors that they've been learning throughout their life. And so whatever therapy treatment that I would be given, it would be targeting those things first. And so for Khalil, I felt like he would probably get, the oppositional defiant disorder. And in a world more general normal system, that would be the diagnosis that would be given. But then I would want to look for more, is it like how y'all were saying before, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, making sure that he has all his needs met, and then really assessing, is this a impulse control disorder? Is this ADHD? And really he just needs to have things broken down smaller to him. Like they gave him that whole entire building size list of rules.
No running.
No, he can't do all of that at one time. You tell me not to do all of them things at once, I'm not going to remember all of it. Matter of fact, I'm doing whatever I want to. I'm playing cowboys and Indians and jumping on top of the thing. Like, because you gave me too much at one time. That's overwhelming. Forget all that you're saying. I'm going to do what I want to do. And so really screening on exactly like what it is and what's going on with him. But Khalil is my favorite. And I think that he has lots of leadership skills. And to me, I think Khalil is the one that has the opportunity for the most success. I think Peewee would be the one who would be the street dude. I mean, he was selling watches.
That's true. That is very true. That's why I was like, wait, Peewee might go to the street.
He definitely climbed to the top of all them glasses. Like, he's a G. I don't know what baby gonna climb up all them glasses in a glass store. But no, I really like what you said, Courtney. I totally agree with that. I think my intervention, similar to yours, would probably be like, I love Saterian. I love experiential stuff. I would really be trying to get mom to understand what the impact is on her kids. Like, when you make this decision, this is the result. Are you running the household or are your kids? Like, who is in charge right now in this environment? So I definitely think I would take a family approach. I mean, honestly, too, I don't know how much work. I'm a fond believer of, like, I don't believe it's possible to have child therapy. I feel like there is no way you can have child therapy without bringing the parents in. They have to be involved and have some kind of buy-in, because as soon as you get done with that child still got to go home and be in the same environment. Like, there's no way you can just work with that child and everything become great. No, you need a buy-in from the parents.
And that's one thing that when parents do have somewhat of the buy-in, they're like, okay, it's session number 2. Why is my child not fixed yet? Why is my child still cursing me out? And
because you're the problem. Because you're the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem.
Wait. Why? Why is it on me? It's your job. I'm telling you, you have to go home and do this homework with them. You have to work with them. You have to be with them and talk with them.
Maybe because you ain't hugged your son in 6 years. Maybe that's why.
Bruh.
I'm sorry. I'm speaking for
Did you show up to that project that he had in school? Did you show up to the talent show?
Did you
when the principal called, did you come?
Right. And so yet they put the pressure on the therapist to be like, fix my kid. That's not how this works. It's a team effort.
Maybe you should stop getting high around your kids. Maybe that'll help.
Your kid coming to the schoolhouse smelling like weed because you didn't smoke in the car
and drugs. Never knew cocaine had a smell, but it does. It certainly does. It does. Okay, and I know when your children are around drugs. Crack? It does, and I smell it on your child.
You don't want to smell your child.
But you want me to fix them. You want me to make them so obedient. And yes, ma'am. No, I can't, because you've traumatized them in your own way. So that means that you have to undo this trauma just like you expect me to undo it. We got to do it together. So I agree with you, Jamie. It's not just on me as a therapist just to do this therapy one-on-one with a child. This is going to take the parent too. And maybe we're not going to sit all together in this session, but I might have to see that parent on the side.
Exactly. And also too, you can't be manipulative. You can't be like, you need to do better at school, blah, 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 but then be hitting a crack pipe in front of him or smoking weed in front of him when it's illegal. Like, and then want to tell him to do right. Where is the model? Like, it's this whole do as I say, not as I do thing. That is bullshit.
And I know we're coming down very hard on parents this episode, and none of us are children, guys. So this is not supposed to be judgmental. But there is one thing that I have to say: you cannot beat better grades into your children. That's not how it works.
No.
I just had to say that. I need to get that out there. That has absolutely nothing to do with baby kids. But I diagnosed Peewee with Rad, with reactive attachment disorder. Would you like to hear the criteria for that?
I do, because I do feel like that's one that would work for, especially for Peewee, because he is the youngest. But I like, to your point though, I feel like, a lot of times parents think that, beating your kid is going to make them submissive and act right. That also puts a strain on the relationship at times, depending on how you're parenting and disciplining your child. Children are people. They're little people.
I think like in this way, are you teaching your child to be an adult, or are you teaching them to be obedient? Because I grew up with parents that were very much so both disciplinarians. And when I got older into being an adult, I had to unlearn how to be obedient and learn how to make intentional decisions for myself, not just go with something because somebody told me I should do it. That was a huge difference and a change in my career. If my parents had been more so like, okay, yes, I would like you to do these things. I want to instill these morals and values in you. Great. But I also giving myself the say so to say no when I'm uncomfortable, when I don't want to do something. That made such a huge change. When I got that voice for myself to say, I don't care what my boss says. If this is not my guided path, fuck this job. I'm going to go somewhere else and do where I feel like my purpose is and what I need to be doing. I don't need to be just listening to it because you're above me.
That right there is why I think that all of the kids in this movie are going to be successful, because we see different forms of that, where Leon is super obedient, but he did have a little bit of problem, but he still did it anyway with standing up for himself. And even when they was trying to punk him, he would still say, no, this is not right, or no, that's not okay. And he was the one who was able to be Khalil's, I guess, court appointed lawyer during his trial with Nixon and Abraham Lincoln. I don't know how that all came together.
Nixon, the symbolism. That was symbolism right there.
It was. Yeah. But he was able to do that, and I feel like all throughout, Khalil, LaShawn, and Peewee were all able to stand up for themselves as well and voice what it is that they wanted, what they felt, and what they needed. And so that is why I feel like each of them, all of the kids in the movie, will be successful.
But Jessica, they said each of you must ask yourself, are we petty, vengeful humans, or logical, moral machines? Then pass judgment. President Lincoln.
I like that though, because I'm petty. Wait, so you were going to give us the criteria for Rads for Peewee?
Oh, Courtney? Yes. A consistent pattern of inhibited, emotionally withdrawn behavior towards adult caregivers manifested by the child rarely or minimally seeking comfort when distressed, and not responding to comfort when they are distressed. minimal social and emotional responsiveness to others, limited positive affect. The only time I saw Peewee smile for real was when they got to Vegas. And unexplained episodes of irritability, which the child has experienced patterns of extreme or insufficient care as evidenced by at least one of the following, which for him, I felt like was social neglect or deprivation in the form of persistent lack of having basic emotional needs or comfort, stimulation, and affection met by the caregiving adults. And so while his brother and sister were making sure that they were there for him, it doesn't matter who it is, children are always going to want that mother or father figure in their life. And I have seen personally cases where the parents were horrible to their children, and those kids still just wanted their mom and dad to love them. And so because he was not able to receive that, because Bebe in my mind was at work, trying to make a way, scratching and surviving, he wasn't getting those emotional needs met. And so he just was not responsive to pretty much anybody, and kind of came a little bit self-sufficient. If only he could have changed his own diaper. I just needed somebody to change Peewee, and it didn't happen throughout the entire movie, and it just bothered me so much. And then he was still going, and then he was even rapping about how much he enjoyed going, where I was like, oh, is this an elimination? Do we need to look at this? Is this he's not meeting this stage appropriately? I'm concerned.
You know what? Encaprices and neuresis, his only way of control. Maybe exactly. That's why it's still not potty trained.
It is an issue of power and control. Mm-hmm. And what concerned me, though, is that he felt pleasure in it and going on himself, which then can later become, some issues. As long as he's not playing in it, though, I'm okay. Once the kids get to the point where they're playing in the poop, that's when there's real issue for concern, and you want to make sure that you reach out to somebody and get everything evaluated, contact your local pediatrician, make sure everything is on the up and up, because I'm concerned about kids that go through.
No, but you bring up a really good point. I didn't even think about encaprices and enuresis. That's the reason why he might not be potty trained right now.
Power and control.
Even still.
If there's no other way he's going to get a say so, if mom is not meeting his needs or not ever there.
That baby was almost 3. There's no reason for him to still be in the diaper.
Not at all. Yeah.
And he know when he going. Like, that's what
he be in the middle of a sentence. Yeah. And babies just have that way. They be like quiet, or they get this look like, hold on. Hold on.
They sit still too long.
Yeah, what you doing in the corner? Stop. But okay.
So with LaShawn, I gave her that dual kind of what we would normally see is I diagnosed her with disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, because I felt like she was often provoked. Like the boys were always pushing her and doing something to her, but then her reaction was not appropriate for her, as big of a reaction was not as appropriate for the little situations that they were putting them in. Like she was tearing them up over little small stuff like that.
I agree with that. And she would do it in silence, very planful. Like when they said something about, what was it? When she kissed Leon. And she very quietly went to go get the big ass hammer from the toy thing. And then politely just ran over, and everybody was running.
Yeah, she was ready. I was like, wow. She went from 0 to 100.
And it did seem like it was causing her a certain level of distress. I don't know if it was just a genderized thing with Jamaica not really saying anything to the boys, but she did check LaShawn the one time and was like, LaShawn, have you lost your mind? And LaShawn even cowered, which was the only time that we saw the kids kind of feel like, oh no, I'm being, remorseful in that moment. Like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, or I feel bad, I'm being chastised. But I don't know if that was because she's the girl and it's not okay for girls to behave in that manner.
Ooh.
But yeah.
That's a good point, because she definitely didn't really check the boys until they were actually fist fighting in the back seat. When they were actually hitting each other in the back seat. Aside from that, you're right. That was the only person she really called out. I don't know, maybe there was some discomfort around it, because you remember when they got on that little swan thing on that little ride, and she was like, I think you need to put your son in some karate or something, because he's a little soft. Maybe she doesn't know how to respond to males and feels better responding to a female. Hence how she's taking care of a female's kids,
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah.
But even with that, again, more so would be working with Bebe. The only thing that I would want to try to assist LaShawn with was maybe some self-regulation skills on the meantime for her to, regulate her emotions and kind of bring herself back down on her own. Some reflective practices, because we do see her kind of like cower a little bit when Jamaica do say something to her. So we know that she cognitively can have that thought process to look back like, okay, this is what they did. Did I need to hit them with a hammer? And kind of go back and see if her reactions are consistent with or appropriate to the level of which they are provoking her. But most of her stuff was because they was bothering her and they should have left her the hell alone.
And she wanted some control. She wanted a little bit of control of what's happening.
Yeah.
They write on the board, like when the movie first came on, what did the little boys write on the board? LaShawn likes boys. Yeah. From the very beginning. And she smacked both of them in the face.
Yeah. And it was almost this thing where like if she likes boys, it's a bad thing. And so even her relationship with Leon is like, oh, you like him. And so it made her act out instead of just being okay with the fact that she liked him. But instead she wanted to fight him because it's like it goes against everything that I don't want you to be. And so I'm gonna fight you instead.
Which is a weird thing that we only do to girls. Like liking boys is a bad thing, but we still want you to like boys. And there's something weird if you don't like boys. But boys are okay to like girls. Like, is that your little girlfriend? But girls don't ever date boys. And then when they're mean to boys, then it's beat up the boys. Yeah, that's a good thing. Ha, give them hell. But then she never really learns how to have agency over herself and her feelings and her emotions towards opposite sex, which is unhealthy. And then how is she going to know how to talk to boys? And like you were saying earlier, like with her prognosis and feeling like where she might grow and develop, I agree with you, but I'm also a little bit concerned because I don't want her to feel like a relationship is her only way out. Because I can definitely see her feeling like being a mom and starting her own family young is her only way out of this situation where her potential is endless and there's so many avenues. And if she does want to start a family and be a mom, that's okay too. But it's not the only option that she has unless that's what she wants to do.
Yeah.
That's real. But I guess, I don't know, if we think about like the way the movie kind of rolls out, I guess I'm trying to think back now to like the gender roles. So it's like, as the female's only supposed to be the caretaker.
That's always the case, especially in the 90s.
I mean, the 90s were a trying time.
And the 90s were a trying time. So, I mean, so many stereotypes, and I get it. Like, it was supposed to play on a lot of stereotypes to be, funny. But when you look at the movie and you really see it for what it is, it's like that was the norm. Like, Bebe was a bad mother because she wasn't active in their lives. She wasn't providing them with what we say mothers should provide their children, and then even the roles of the gender roles of each of the children. Oh, you're not supposed to be fighting boys, but okay, here we are playing with them. It's okay to play, but you can't fight them. But boys fight. How that work?
And who's defending me? Who's
defending her? Who? Right. So what else is she supposed to do? Yes, grab that hammer, girl.
Yeah, knock the hell out of them.
Okay. At least scare the shit out of them.
If we learn nothing else today, guys, I hope that we all, as women, know. Get that hammer, girl. Knock the hell out of them.
Get the pot of grits.
Quote of the day. Get the hammer. Get the pot of grits. Okay. Let them know you ain't one to fuck with.
Let them know you just a little bit crazy.
You ain't no punk.
Just a little bit crazy. But no, it's so true. Like I didn't think about it to this extent until just now, just the way that played out, which would make Robin Harris the perfect man because he's okay with taking all of them out. He can deal with some kids that are a little rough around the edges.
See, we all need a Robin. I'll tell you, Team Robin. Robin held it down for the role that he was the perfect person to fit into that situation because
Robin
had it been someone else, they wouldn't have understood. You say he couldn't escape.
No,
because he got shot like they daddy.
No, do you remember they ran to the car and the kids met him at the car?
And that's when he said, "You try to leave. It ain't time to go yet."
And he valued his life, and so he said, "Oh, we go in the fun world, okay." Oh, and that's the thing. Y'all thought Robin had a choice. Y'all thought he had a choice. He did not have a choice. The kids was going gang up on him to go. You taking us to fun world.
And that's the police driving by them said, "Oh no, those are Bebe's kids."
Because even the police know what it is.
She said, "I'm not even gonna pull this car over."
Right. Oh gosh, y'all.
Okay, so the last person that I diagnosed, or wanted to discuss diagnosis with you, was Dorothea, with the orange perm and the lead press on toe there.
Dorothea with the ashy ankles.
Oh my gosh! When that press on flopped into that juice.
Her toe?
I said, no, God. And that has always put a bad taste in my mouth with press-ons. But press-ons nowadays, they be fly. I'm not going to lie.
Do.
You know, they be real fly.
They're a little bit more high quality than
right?
back then.
You know, you don't got that little stupid glue holding it down. You got some little crazy glue on there. You be all right. But anyway,
this movie ruined it for me. I still can't do press-ons. I'm sorry.
Right? So I didn't give her a diagnosis, so I'm interested to hear what you have for her other than her being stalker-ish. Like, why are you popping up in places and it... Okay, go ahead, Courtney.
Some personality stuff going on.
Okay.
Precisely. See, ma'am, you just read my whole entire mind. And so that is a plus and a minus for me because I feel like a lot of times Ratchet gets personality diagnosis. When this you might just very well be Ratchet, but that gets labeled oftentimes as either like bipolar or borderline. And for her, I went borderline.
I was thinking borderline.
Yeah, okay. on a regular, you know, it's just me and you are working with you. I might just diagnose you in my mind with you Ratchet, and we got to work on some things. But in a more clinical setting, I'm sure that she would probably be diagnosed with borderline disorder because of her frantic efforts to avoid that imagined abandonment because they were at some point married, and even though they were separated, if they really
he still wants you, right?
Girl. And she downed them dogs. She didn't even eat them. She just like swallowed it.
Oh wait, I got a quote. I got the quote for this one. Hold on. She said, "No wonder we're not getting anywhere. Get some of this food off the boat." But I needed to live.
And I diagnosed Vivian with binge eating disorder, but we'll get into that in a second. So Dorothea, along with the imagined abandonment, she also had a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. So when she was trying to make Jamaica jealous, it was my man Robin came over last night. But then it was he liked to beat women over the head, and your mama so dumb she thought a quarterback was a refund. And like,
and then she was like, "In order for me to lie, I would have had to have cared," was what she said. But you do lie, and you do care.
You do care.
You care so much. You care so much.
You know he still wants you, right? I just her little sidekick friend was killing me. No, your friend is so true. He don't want you no more.
And then she had instability due to marked reactivity of mood. Her mood was, all over the place. And then inappropriate, intense difficulty controlling her anger. Like, girl, there was no need for you to be this mad because he's on a date.
Mm-hmm.
How did you even know? Like, how did you even find him there? You ain't got no kids. Right. Why are you at Fun World?
Because she needed her food to live. Maybe they had the best chili dogs, and so Vivian wanted to go. But I did diagnose Vivian with binge eating disorder.
Into a park.
How was you affording to do all of that? But yes, I did diagnose Vivian with binge eating disorder.
And she ate the entire time. No shame. I was concerned.
Yes. Oh, but Dorothea, I would like to do a little DBT because we need some dialectical behavior therapy, not just CBT, because girl, we need to get into these emotions because clearly you really care. And so we need to figure out why. And then I guess we could do CBT with Vivian. Like, girl, what is this emotional connection that you have with food? Why do you feel like you need to?
I like a lot of schema therapy. Like a lot of like, what is this tied to? What does this remind you of? Like, what is the mental picture in your mind? What does this mean to you? I like to get into those, you know, those
this recording that you're having playing in your head
over and over again. Like, what is it tied to? Like that's just my preferred mode of like just identifying things for people. Like, I don't want to identify for you. Tell me what you're seeing. What does this visual give you? I know my idea of a chair. What is your idea of a chair? What does a chair look like to you? What does it feel like?
I just started singing Luther Vandross in my head. Y'all, I won't sing it to y'all though. But I have...
Even when there's no one
sitting there.
Y'all better hit them notes. I have one, I guess, final question that I need to ask y'all. Why was the bartender that Robin was talking to at the bar, why was he blind?
Bruh, and he poured.
My question is, why are so many people talking to the blind man? That's a better question. Like, we see that you blind, even if you don't see that you blind. Why are we continue to engage and get drinks from you when you can't see? Which is, honestly, I feel like that's a good, what is it, like a metaphor? The blind leading the blind. Like, why are we going to this blind person who can't see my space? And he didn't even want to talk
what
to
they
him.
represent is what they represent. And then it helps that they're blind because then you can't really see me. So then I don't feel judged.
Talk about it.
Right? Just because he's blind don't mean he can't see. It means he might not have good vision. That don't mean he can't see at all.
So with that being said, future Dr. Jamie Johnson, can you please tell the people how they can get in contact with you, where they can find you, all your socials, all that good stuff.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at Sense of Self 90. You can also find me on Psychology Today, Jamie Johnson, LPCC. And you can find me on Facebook. I'm like, where else can you find me? On Facebook, Sense of Self 90.
On them streets. I'm just kidding. You can't find her in the streets.
You might, but I don't know if she would want to be found there. If you would like to support the show, most importantly, you can go buy merch. But also, if you just want to help us get more content out to you all, you can visit our website and follow the Support the Show link to become a Patreon member or donate on our Cash App. Now, we're happy to get the kind of money that jingles, but we'd rather the kind that folds. As always, be sure to follow us on Instagram at the DSM Podcast, and you can subscribe to our show wherever you get podcasts. While you're there, go ahead and leave us a comment because we are counselors and actually care about what you have to say. Until next time, y'all, peace.
Okay, bye.